This is Mike with SS Custom Fabrication. Today in the shop we have got a 2022 CF Moto CForce 600. We've built a radiator relocation kit for this, and we're not going to do the whole install on video. We've kind of got it in a halfway state here. Just going to make a real quick video excuse me, to help y'all install this so that you don't have any hiccups or any problems. When I first saw this machine, I thought it was going to be a really rough build and install, and I was pleasantly surprised that it is amazingly easy to get the radiator out of these. And installing this kit is actually going to be one of the easiest ones it's one of the easiest ones I've ever done. Probably be one of the easiest ones you've ever done. So don't pay anybody to do these. Watch this video and we're going to walk you through it. It's really pretty simple. Okay, we're going to walk through a few things that we need to do first before we start to relocate the radiator on this machine. Number one, don't work on them when they're hot. Put them in your shop or wherever you're going to work on it. Let them cool down. I don't want you to get any hot coolant on you or burn yourself, so make sure they're cool. And the first thing we're going to want to do is, you've got these two covers on the front, the little plastic rack cover, pull it off. Then you've got, I'm going to call it a hood, that's up under the rack, pretty easy to get off. Pop it off. That'll be the first thing you're going to do. When you do that, you'll notice that you'll be able to see the top of the radiator and the fan. You'll be able to see a lot of the wiring and everything. It's always easier and best if you really wash this thing and get it really clean for this part of it. That way you're not contaminating any of your coolant, because I'm going to be honest with you, I'll catch the coolant, run it through some paint strainers, and if it looks good, I'll put it back in there. Things cost too much these days, so we're going to save and be careful with everything we can. After you get these two covers off, the next thing you're going to want to do is jack it up and get it stable to where it's not going to fall on you. Remove this left front tire. Now, you could probably get the radiator out either side. By looking at it, I think you could get it out the right side. I didn't try it because I was successful getting it out the left side. So remove this tire. After you remove the tire, under the fender well, you're going to see this piece right here. And this is a little cover. It has 7 push pins in it, and it's got one 10mm bolt. It's up in there like such. You will have to remove it. And I can tell you this, I don't know what these push pins are made out of, but these are the toughest, meanest push pins that I have ever dealt with in my life. And I've got the proper tools to remove them, and I could not get them out. So you're probably going to have to destroy your push pins. And I'm going to include 7 push pins in the kit because you're going to need them. 7 push pins, 1 bolt. Remove this piece, set it to the side, and after that we're going to go to another little clip here, and I've already got the radiator removed, but when we go to that clip, I'm going to kind of walk you through what you've got to do. It'll be pretty simple, and we'll get to that now. Okay, like I said earlier, this is not a complete install. I didn't want to bore y'all with that because it really is pretty simple. But if you have problems, just call me. Numbers on the video, it's going to be in your box with your kit and any other information that you need. When you pull all these off, and I know it's not here now, but you're going to notice your radiator is going to be right here in this area, and the fan is going to be behind it. There are 4 bolts holding the fan to the radiator. You can reach down through this hole and undo the bolts. You can get the 2 bottom ones from each side. You can reach them. The 2 top ones from the top. And when you undo the fan, very carefully pull it out the top. You can leave the electric wires hooked to it, lay it on the left side of the rack over here, and just don't worry about it at that point for right now. And then there's going to be 2 bolts right here that are holding the radiator in. If you'll undo those bolts, there's going to be a grommet, which you see that I have removed. You're going to remove the bolts, remove the grommets, and keep up with the grommets and the little washers that are on the front side. The grommets on the bottom of the radiator on the pins, they will be in these 2 holes. Hopefully you can see them, but when you pull the radiator, the grommets are going to stay on it. They fit pretty tight on the radiator and they fit pretty loose in the frame. Once you get all that undone, the next thing you want to do, or you could have done it first. If you've got a winch like this one does, you want to undo the bolts on the winch. You don't have to undo the electrical connections to the winch. It's 4 13mm bolts. Undo the bolts. You'll have to take the little front cover off. It's a couple of socket Allens to get the cover off to get to the bolts. Remove the winch, just like we're going to remove the radiator, to the left side. It will slide this direction and you can kind of leave it hanging by the wires. Once you do that, this radiator, once unbolted with the fan laying on the rack and the left tire removed and a piece of plastic with them really tough push pins that we removed earlier, this radiator will remove out the left side. And it comes out just be really easy because this brake block and such here, it's really close. So just pay attention not to drag your radiator across that and mess up your cooling fins. But the radiator can then be removed out the left side. Now once it's removed, you want to check it and make sure it doesn't have mud in it. This particular 4-wheeler, it took me probably 2 hours to get the mud out of it. I had to soak it and spray it. And if you've soaked it in soapy water and try to spray it out and it doesn't come out, the best thing to do is, now never use high pressure on one. Use a water hose with your thumb over the end, or one of those cheap sprayers from the Dollar General on the shower mode. But if you can't get it out with just soaking it in soapy water, dilute a little purple power about half and half, spray it on there, and then go to spraying it out. You might have to do it 7 or 8 times. Hold it up to the light, make sure you've got all of the mud out of it, and you'll be good to go. Alright, on all the 4-wheelers made these days with radiators, you've got radiator hoses that are either 3/4, 7/8, or 1 inch. This CF Moto has 7/8 inch hose on it. So me as a manufacturer and everybody else that manufactures kits, we supply 3/4 hose barbs and 3/4 hose. And the reason why is no one makes a 7/8 heater hose, and it ain't just me using heater hose, that's what everybody uses. Nobody makes a 7/8 heater hose. Now, I say nobody does, actually they do. For diesel applications, you know, high heat and all that, you can buy a silicone 7/8 hose, but they are very expensive, and these hoses are just as good, they work just as well, and me nor anybody else is going to supply that expensive 7/8 hose. Gates makes the fittings that I supply in these. I know some people that I've seen, some manufacturers, they'll give you dishwasher fittings that are 7/8, and I just want to warn you against that. Dishwasher fittings are rated for temperature, but they are not rated for pressure, so don't do that. These are rated for temperature and pressure. They're 3/4. They got a real nice step on them, and with the proper clamps that I supply on this 7/8 hose, that will not leak. Then you go to the 3/4 hose here that I supply. Those 3/4 hoses are going to be really snug on your radiator. Snug is good. You can get them on there, and if it's cold outside or cold in your shop or wherever you're working on it, They're going to be a little tricky to get on there. I tell everybody use a heat gun, a hair dryer. If it's summertime, you can lay them out in the sun. If nothing else, get you some really hot water and set the end of it in some hot water, and it'll slip right on there, and you won't have any problems with any leaks. I just wanted to go over that because I've had people call and say, hey, these hose barbs and this hose is a different size. But that is why it is supplied by me and everybody else for that reason. Now this is your coolant bottle, your coolant recovery bottle. This line here is the vent. You want to leave it alone. This line here goes to the neck on your radiator where your radiator cap is. So when your coolant expands and it gets hot, it'll push some coolant in, and when it cools off, it'll suck it back. The angle on it is wrong to work as is. So you'll need to cut this little section right here off and get this straight section going. I'm supplying you this brass hose barb. This is the clamp that goes on it. And the clear tube is really tight on here. There's not going to be any pressure on here. You don't need to put a clamp on it. And as you can see, this stuff is laid out and extended for when we get to the next clip. That's going to show you how to put the radiator on and how to bolt it down and everything. But I just wanted to cover everything about these 7/8 hoses and where you needed to cut this. Right here is the items that's going to be included with your kit. You've got your radiator hose. It's going to come in one section. You'll want to put one section on at a time. Don't cut it in half. Put one section on at a time. Make sure you've got enough. You should have plenty left over. This is your clear tube you're going to use along with this brass hose barb that we discussed in the last little clip to go to your coolant recovery bottle. Here's the push pins that I've already said they're going to be destroyed when you get them off. So here's your replacement push pins. Also, these are the brackets right here, that the bottom grommets in the on the bottom of the radiator. They're going to fit into these. They will bolt here on the kit. These are the bolts that are going to bolt your faceplate to your side plates. These are the bolts that are going to attach your side plates down to your rack. Hose barbs, hose clamps, random zip ties here. You won't need that many, but I'm going to give you 8 or 10. These are the parts that came off. You really don't need to see them unless you want to look at these indestructible. Well, no, they're not indestructible. They're not removable push pins. I don't know what they're made out of, but good luck with getting them off. That's why I'm giving you these. Now, as far as the tools that you're going to need to do the install, you're going to need a 7/8 or a 1-inch hole saw. Most of the stuff you're going to do on this install, use a 1/4-inch ratchet. That way you don't over tighten stuff, and I hadn't got to that yet, but I'll probably say it again later. Don't over tighten this stuff. Once it's snug, it's snug. We're using lock nuts. We're not using lock washers. It's got to be collapsed. Just when it's tight, it's tight. Don't just keep tightening it. That's probably the #1 problem we have when we're dealing with bolting stuff to plastic. So just get it tight and don't over tighten it. But 1/4-inch drive ratchet, 8mm, 10mm. You're going to need extension. These are for removing door panel clips or push pins. But like I said, they're going to be pretty much useless with those push pins. So get your pair of cheap pliers and do the best you can and snatch them out of there. You're also going to need a 3/8 drive ratchet with a 13mm socket. That's to remove the winch, get it out of the way to remove the radiator. And then you're going to need a 5mm Allen socket. That's to remove the 4 bolts that hold the cover on the front to access the bolts that hold the winch in. And back to the kit. In the next clip, we're going to go to some stuff on this kit, but These bolts here, as you see, that's these pieces here. You will bolt them into the bottom. The rubber grommets on the bottom of the radiator, I don't know if you can see, but I think y'all know, the rubber grommets will fit in these holes here. Now this is different than any other kit I've ever seen or any other kit that I've ever built. The upper bolts in the radiator, this is the original bolts that came with your four-wheeler. It's the original grommets and the original tapered washer. You're going to put those grommets in this faceplate here and here, slip the washer on it, poke the radiator down in there, use the original bolts, bolt it to the faceplate. It's going to be a good, solid, super solid mount. You're not going to have to worry about it wiggling, moving, or causing any issues. The clearance is good on it. And that's pretty much it. I could flip this over and show you how to do it and take it apart, but I mean, it's really pretty simple. Put these grommets in here. That's the big thing that's different on this kit. Now, to paint these, y'all know if you've bought anything from me before, I don't paint or powder coat anything that I sell. And the reason why is I'm a fabricator, I'm not a powder coater. I didn't want to get into that. I can supply you the kit a little bit cheaper, not having to deal with the powder coat, and I can get them out faster. And honestly, as opposed to powder coating, this stuff right here, and I'm not a you know, a vendor for Duplicolor or nothing like that, but I've used a lot of different kinds, and this Duplicolor truck bed coating is probably the best there is. I've used them all. The main thing you need to remember is don't do it when it's really cold, and don't do it when it's really hot. Practice on something, a piece of paper or something that you don't really care about. It's not like spray painting. You kind of got to sling it and fling it. When you do coat it, try to coat down first. Don't worry about covering the whole kit. You want to coat down, let it cure, and then coat upwards, and then from the sides to get all of these surfaces. Now, once all those surfaces are done, come back and put your good coat on here and get the edges. You can do it any way you want, but I don't recommend bolting it together, naturally without the radiator in it, but I see some people bolt them together and then paint them. You can do that, but the problem is where these sides overlap, you're not going to get a coating in there, and there is a good possibility that later on rust is going to leak out. So you want to paint it in the 3 pieces, well actually 5 pieces, you got these also. Paint it separate, give it plenty of time to cure, and then assemble it. Now, a lot of times, I know I get in a hurry a lot, it's probably best to put the kit in here without painting it. Go ahead and install it on the four-wheeler. Everything except, you know, drilling your holes that we're going to get to in the next clip. Get everything ready to go to where it is ready to mount. You can even hook the hoses to the radiator. Tighten everything up. Undo these bolts. Let the radiator lay down. Pick this up, paint it, let it cure. And then when it's cured, you're not handling it a lot. You're not going to mess your paint job up. Just stick it back on there, pop the radiator in, put the grommets and the bolts in it. You're good to go. You got a good fresh coat of paint with no fingerprints or scratches or scuffs on it. And I guess that's really about all. It's fairly straightforward. Now, in the next clip, we'll go to installing it on the four-wheeler, and that's about it. Okay, this right here is going to wrap up this install for this 2022 CForce CF Moto 600. We got the kit on here, got a couple bolts installed to hold the kit down. If you notice, there's a lot of slots in the side. You can choose where to put it, but just be very aware of what's behind where you're drilling. Also, when you tighten these up, once again, don't over tighten. This rack is kind of an ABS plastic, and if you over tighten it, you can break this piece of plastic by just over tightening it. Get it snug. It's good. It's not going anywhere. We got our hoses routed, and everything's good and clean. No kinks in the hose. This piece right here, this came off the top of the rack. We're not installing this piece, and the reason why is if we installed this, the radiator kit would capture it, and to remove it, we would need to remove the whole radiator kit. We don't want you to do that, because under this cover right here, you can access your coolant bottle and your brake reservoir, and you need to be able to access that. If you'll notice here, we've slotted this all the way out to the side. It's not just a hole, it's a slot. That way you can pop this up, rotate it out, remove it, and get to all that, put it back in, rotate it, push it back in, and it's secure. It'll really help you on being able to access everything. That's really about it. Just the main things to remember is don't over tighten stuff. That's really the biggest issue that I see with a lot of stuff is people over tighten things. That wraps it up for this 2022 CForce CF Moto 600. Now this kit also fits a 2020 through 2022 CForce 600. It will not fit the 500. I don't know if it fits the 800 or the 1000, but I'm pretty sure it won't. This is a pretty popular model, so if you need one, just give me a call. My phone number will be on here on the end of the video. Email will be there. Email, I'm kind of slow on that. I'm not in that age group. Just call me or text me, and I can get you hooked up with one. I got a Facebook page, SS Custom Fabrication LLC. If you go through Messenger, probably once a day I'll check that. I do stay pretty busy. Best thing to do is just call or text. But if y'all need anything, just give us a shout. Thank y'all and have a great day.